Good morning friends, myself Gaurav Kulkarni, and today's topic for the introduction is the OOPS concept in Java. So first of all, what does it mean by OOPS? So OOPS is nothing but it's an abbreviation for Object Oriented Programming. Object Oriented Programming is nothing a type of programming language, but it's a feature in it. The feature which enables a developer to use or to create the methods and class and reuse all them without compromising the security. So this is the OOPS. There are some language which persist this function, and Java is one of them. But Java is not 100% pure object-oriented language, but it has some several features. So we will explain it and understand it in details. So there are the four main pillars of OOPS concept, which makes the language object-oriented. The first is the abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, and inheritance. So we will explain and understand one by one. So first, there is a class and object. So what does it mean by object? So object is nothing but it's a real-time entity, like chair, a table. These are the real entity which are present in physical manner. So object is a real-time entity, and it is also called as the instance of a class. So without a class, the object cannot be existed. The class. So suppose and object is also have a task to perform. So suppose if you take an example of a class as a human being, so human being is a class which has the or an object, we can call it an object, sorry. So human being is an object which has a property, some task. So the properties like human being has some height, some weight, some color, and name also. While the human being can perform some task, called as a human being can run, can walk, can read and write. So the properties are called as the variables. So the properties and the task are called as variables and the methods. The next type is the class. So what does it mean by the class? So class is nothing but it's a blueprint or it's a template that the object should follow. So you can say that the object is basically dependent on the class. So whatever we mention in the class, that the object should be followed. So the class can contain n number of objects, and so suppose if you take an example of a class as a student, so student has some properties also and some tasks also as we seen in the object mode. So the student can have the properties like the name, the roll number, the name, class number, and joining date. While the task he can perform, like he can read, he can play, he can run. So these are so basically the class cannot communicate between each other. So for the communication purpose, object should be there. So object is a medium which helps the class to communicate between and transfer the data and the methods also. So we will see the pillars of the OOPS concept. The first is the abstraction. So abstraction is nothing but, so we will check the pillars of OOPS concept. The first one is the abstraction. The second one is the encapsulation. Third one is the inheritance, and the fourth one is the polymorphization. So first one is abstraction. So abstraction is nothing but it is a property that's hide the implementation parts and shows the only essential part. So suppose if you download any software or any application from the Play Store, so you can download the file in APK format, .apk format or .exe format. So you can see the file, but you cannot, once the file installed, you cannot see the classes, the package, the classes, and the methods it contains. So this is the type where abstraction used. The second one is the inheritance. So inheritance is nothing but the acquiring properties of another class to the another class. So suppose if there are two classes, one is the parent class and the second one is the child class. You can also call the parent class as a superclass and the child class as a subclass, where the child class or subclass acquire the properties from the parent class or the superclass. The next function is encapsulation. So encapsulation is nothing but binding the variables and object together in all unit. So suppose a class is a encapsulation part which contains the type, the object, and the variable. So suppose if the class is student, so the student class contains the properties, that means variables as the roll number, the date of joining, the class, and the division, etc. While the task means the properties or the method which run, to play, to write. So these are the encapsulation which consists of all the variables and objects. And the third point is, and the last last point is polymorphization. So polymorphization is nothing but uh, 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 polymorphization is nothing but performing a same task in a different way. So suppose if you have to add two variables, so you just have to put a syntax that add in parentheses. You can add the digits and you will get the result. But there is another way to perform the calculation for the sum operation, that you had just to put the syntax of add in bracket integer a and integer b. So polymorphization has two types. One is the compile time polymorphization, and the second one is the runtime polymorphization. So in compile time, the polymorphization is obtained by method overriding, and in runtime it is obtained by the method overriding. Simply.